There is a question most people never truly stop to ask, not because it's too difficult, but because it's too simple. The question is this: what are you exactly? Not who you are. Not your name, your job, your story. Not the narrative you recite to yourself every morning when you wake up and remember who you're supposed to be today. What you are. Close your eyes for a moment and try to answer that without using words you borrowed from someone else. Hard, isn't it? And perhaps that difficulty is already in itself the beginning of an answer. Because there is a tradition of thought, one that was not born in universities or laboratories, but along riverbanks, on mist-covered mountains, in the silences between one word and the next, that says this: you cannot define yourself because you are not a thing. You are a process. You are a movement. You are, and this will sound strange for a few seconds, a shape that the universe is making right now, as you breathe, as your mind tries or fails to understand, as your heart beats without asking your permission. This tradition has a name. It's called Taoism. And what it has to say to the modern world is more urgent, more radical, and more liberating than anything I could invent. Let's begin with something that seems entirely modern, but is actually very, very old. 20th century physics, Einstein, Bohr, Heisenberg, all of them, did something extraordinary. It destroyed the idea that the universe is made of solid things. For centuries, Western thought rested on a deeply comforting image. The world is composed of particles, little balls of matter that collide, combine, and separate. A kind of cosmic billiard game. Each thing has its clear edges. Each thing is itself and nothing else. This was the original atom, atomos in Greek, that which cannot be cut, the final, irreducible brick of reality. And then modern physics went in and cut it, and cut again, and kept cutting. And what it found was not a smaller brick. What it found was pattern, vibration, relation, event. Sir Arthur Eddington, one of the great physicists of the early 20th century, said something remarkable about electrons. He said physics had reached a point where it no longer even made sense to ask what an electron is. Because what is observed is not a thing, it is a behavior. It is something happening in relation to something else. The universe, modern physics discovered, is not a collection of objects. It is a system of energy in constant flow. And energy, pay attention here, because this is central. Energy never exists without pattern, and pattern never exists without energy. They are not two different things where one shapes the other, like a potter shaping clay. They are the same phenomenon seen from two angles. 2,500 years before Einstein, there was a Chinese text called the Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way and Virtue, that said exactly this, in poetic language, using images of water and wind and silence. Not because the Taoists had particle accelerators, but because they were paying attention to something Western civilization spent centuries deliberately ignoring: the direct experience of reality as it is. Imagine a river, not a generic, abstract river, a real river, with that specific sound of water against stone, with that smell of wet earth, with that color that shifts depending on the sky above. Now watch a whirlpool in that river, one of those little vortices that forms when the water meets a rock or a bend and begins spinning on itself. The whirlpool has a shape. You can point to it, You can say, "There it is." But the water inside the whirlpool is never the same. Every second, new molecules enter the pattern and leave. What remains is not the matter, it is the form. The specific dance that piece of water learned to do at that specific point in the river. Now, you are that whirlpool, not metaphorically, literally. The atoms composing your body were not yours 7 years ago. They were in the air, in food, in water, in soil. They passed through other living beings. They passed through stars that exploded billions of years ago. And soon enough, they will no longer be yours. They will return to the great cycle: air, earth, water, other bodies, other forms. What you call self is a pattern of energy that the universe is maintaining for a while. A temporary dance, a whirlpool. And Taoism says, this is not a tragedy. It is the most beautiful thing there is, because the whirlpool does not need to worry about remaining. It does not need to cling to the water passing through it. It simply dances, and while it dances, it is completely real, completely present, completely itself. But we were not taught to think this way. We were taught by our culture, our religion, our social institutions, to think of ourselves as bricks. Solid, separate objects that exist on their own terms, that must protect themselves, defend themselves, preserve themselves at all costs. And this thinking, this illusion of being a brick in a universe of bricks, is the source of an extraordinary amount of suffering. Think about what fear feels like. Fear is always at some level the fear that the brick will be destroyed, that the self will disappear, that something I consider mine will be taken away. Think about what anxiety feels like. Anxiety is always, at some level, the desperate attempt to control a universe that refuses to be controlled. It is the brick trying to rearrange all the other bricks around it into the right position. And think about how you feel when, even briefly, even imperfectly, you let all of that go. When you are so absorbed in something, a piece of music, a sunset, a deep conversation, a moment of creation, that the self simply stops making noise. That moment of inner silence, that inexplicable lightness, that sense that things are all right in a way that transcends any specific circumstance. Taoism has a name for this. It is called being in the Tao. And the radical claim of this tradition is that this state is not a rare achievement reserved for monks on mountaintops. It is your original nature. It is what you are when you stop trying to be what you think you should be. Here we arrive at a point that is simultaneously the simplest and the most difficult for the modern Western mind to swallow. The Tao has no boss. The universe, the flow of nature, the dance of energy that produces stars and oceans and bees and flowers and you, is not governed by anyone. There is no being at the top of the hierarchy issuing commands. No cosmic administrator approving projects. No central will deciding what happens next. Things happen of themselves. In Chinese, there is a word for this, ziran, which means literally, that which is so of itself. Spontaneity, self-naturalness. Your heart beats without your having to govern it. Your lungs breathe without your having to decree each inhalation. Your cells divide, communicate, organize themselves into extraordinary complexity without any cellular CEO making decisions. And Taoism says, all of nature works this way. Order does not come from the top down. It emerges. It self-organizes. It flourishes when left alone. Now, this has a practical implication. The more you try to control, the more things slip out of control. The more you squeeze, the more it slides away. The more you insist on being the manager of your own life, planning every detail, anticipating every threat, controlling every variable, the further you drift from the natural flow of things. And the central paradox of Taoism, and there are many paradoxes in this tradition, because reality is paradoxical, is this. When you let go, things begin to work, not because you became passive or gave up, but because you stopped blocking the flow with your resistance. Let's talk about bees and flowers. This seems like a detour. It is not. This is, in fact, one of the most powerful images in all of Taoist philosophy, and its implications go far beyond biology. A bee and a flower appear to be two completely separate things. One flies, the other is rooted in soil. One has wings and antennae, the other has petals and pollen. Nothing could seem more different. And yet, without flowers, there would be no bees. Bees co-evolved with flowers over tens of millions of years, in a co-creative dance where each shaped the other. The colors of flowers, those vibrant oranges and yellows, exist because bees can perceive them. Honey exists because flowers produce nectar. Flowers reproduce because bees carry pollen. Remove the flowers, and within a few years, there will be no bees. Remove the bees, and within a few years, much of the flowering plant life, and the entire chain of life depending on it, will collapse. They are, in truth, one single organism. Separated in space but united in pattern. The thread connecting them is invisible. Currents of air carrying fragrance. Frequencies of light one emits and the other reads. Seasonal cycles they both inhabit simultaneously. Now, you and the universe have exactly this relationship. You appear to be a separate thing from the cosmos. You have skin which seems like a clear border between inside and outside. You have an inner perspective that seems entirely your own. But without the sun, you would not exist. Not only because you need warmth, but because every atom in your body was forged in stars that exploded before the solar system existed. You are literally made of star. Without the oceans regulating climate, without the bacteria in your gut processing your food, without the atmosphere filtering radiation, without the plants converting carbon dioxide into oxygen, you would not exist. And here is the side that is harder to feel. The universe as we know it would not exist without you. This part requires attention, because it goes against nearly everything you were probably taught to believe. The world you see, hear, smell, touch, and taste is not simply out there, waiting for you to perceive it as it really is. The world you experience is a joint creation, a co-production between what is out there and the specific structure of your nervous system. The sky is blue because you have cones and rods in your eyes that interpret specific wavelengths of electromagnetic light as blue. For a bee, that same sky holds a completely different pattern. It sees ultraviolet. For a dog, the colors you see are simply inaccessible. Sound is sound because you have eardrums that transform air pressure variations into neural signals your brain interprets as sound. If a tree falls in a forest and no one is there to hear it, there is no sound. There are vibrations in the air. Sound is what happens when those vibrations meet a being capable of hearing. In other words, the world as you know it is what happens at the border between you and the universe. Not something that exists completely independently of you, nor something you invent from nothing. A relationship, a perpetual transaction. And this means you are not a passive observer of a universe that existed before you and will exist after you, completely indifferent to your presence. You are an active dimension of reality. Every being that ever existed, every person who ever loved, thought, created, suffered, gave the universe a perspective that without them would not have existed. Socrates lived and died. But the fact that the universe was capable of producing Socrates, that specific mind, that specific curiosity, that specific courage, tells us something about what the universe is capable of being. You are the universe looking at itself through your eyes. You are the cosmos asking itself what it is. There is an image from Buddhism, intellectual cousin to Taoism, that I believe is the most beautiful in all of Asian philosophy. Imagine the palace of the god Indra. From its ceiling hangs an infinite net. At every node of this net, there is a crystal, and every crystal reflects all the others. If you look closely at any specific crystal, you will see in it the reflection of all the others. And if you look closer still, in the reflection of each crystal within the first crystal, you will again see the reflections of all the others. To infinity. Each point contains the whole. The whole manifests in each point. This is what philosophy calls the mutual interpenetration of all things and events. And modern physics, by completely different routes, has arrived at something not very far from this. The principle of quantum non-locality, that two particles which have once interacted remain correlated regardless of distance, suggests that the universe is, at a fundamental level, a non-separable system. The border between here and there is a useful convention for navigating daily life, not an absolute truth about the structure of reality. We arrive now at the practical portion, because all good philosophy must make a difference in your life, or it is merely intellectual entertainment. If all of this is true, if you are a whirlpool in a river, a temporary expression of a flow that never stops, a bee in a system that includes its flowers, a crystal in an infinite net of reflections, what does it change about the way you live? It changes everything. Or more precisely, it changes the relationship you have with everything. When you begin to feel, not merely understand intellectually, but feel in the body, that you are a process and not an object, the fear of death begins to change shape. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't need to disappear. But it begins to feel less like the threat of extinction, of something that should never end, and more like the moment when the whirlpool dissolves back into the river. The water does not die when the whirlpool stops. The pattern dissolves, and the energy that formed it continues, in other forms, in other dances. When you begin to feel that you and the universe are a transaction and not a battle, the obsessive need for control begins to relax. Not because you have become irresponsible, but because you realize there is an intelligence in the flow of things that is far greater than your conscious planning. And that often the best things in life were the ones you did not plan. The ones that simply arrived when you were receptive, when you were not trying so hard. When you begin to feel that every person around you is also a unique expression of the same universe that produced you, something happens to your capacity for empathy. Not because you decide to be more empathetic, but because the illusion of separation that feeds indifference begins to become porous. Here we reach the most delicate point of the conversation. Everything we have discussed so far can seem at first like theory, and theory is useful. Theory changes how you think, and changing how you think changes what you perceive, and what you perceive changes your experience. But Taoism is not primarily a theory, it is a practice. It is an invitation to deepen consciousness, to go deeper than thoughts, deeper than emotions, deeper than the stories you tell about yourself. Because when you go deep enough, you find something interesting. You arrive at the point where what you call you begins to dissolve at its edges. Where does the self end and the world begin? Try to answer that with precision. Your skin. But your skin is constantly exchanging atoms with the environment. Your thoughts? But your thoughts are made of language you did not invent, concepts you inherited from others, experiences that came from outside. Your emotions? But your emotions respond to people, to places, to sounds, all things on the outside. The more you examine, the more the border seems like a convention, a line drawn for convenience, not out of metaphysical necessity. And when that border begins to feel less solid, something very strange and very wonderful can happen. You can begin to feel, not as idea, but as experience, that what you are is much larger than you thought. That you are, in fact, the entire situation, not a point within the situation. The situation. The final image I want to leave you with is that of two dancers. Dancers who are so attuned, so present to one another, that you cannot tell who is leading and who is following. They simply dance together. And each movement of one is a response to the other. And each response becomes an invitation. And each invitation is answered in an exchange so fluid that the distinction between my initiative and response to the other dissolves. This is what Taoism proposes as the model for the relationship between you and the universe. Not the relationship of subject dominating object, not the relationship of creature obeying creator, not the relationship of soldier following orders from a cosmic general, but the relationship of two dancers who have learned to be so present to one another that they become, for a moment, one thing. And the dance, that movement which includes them both, has a name. It is called the Tao, the way, the course, the flow. So we return to the question from the beginning. What are you exactly? You are a whirlpool. You are a wave. You are a crystal in an infinite net of reflections. You are the universe discovering itself from a unique and unrepeatable vantage point. You are a temporary expression of something that always was and always will be. You are, in the words of a very old and very wise tradition, a place where the Tao, the flow of everything, took a particular form, danced for a while, and will eventually return to the flow from which it came. And this is not something to fear. It is something to marvel at. Because while the whirlpool lasts, it is completely real. While the wave rises, it is completely present. While you exist, you are completely you, unique, unrepeatable, necessary. And if you can, even for a moment, even imperfectly, feel that as experience rather than idea, you will notice the weight you carried grew a little lighter. The urgency you felt became a little less pressing. The people around you suddenly seem less like threats and more like fellow dancers. Other whirlpools in the same river. other waves in the same ocean, other expressions of the same inexplicable mystery that you also are. Wu Wei, non-forcing, acting in harmony with the flow. Let go a little. Let the water flow. See what happens. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Not a trick question, not a riddle. Just this. Did any of this land somewhere real for you? Because if it did, even a little, even in a way you can't quite put into words yet, that's worth paying attention to. Most people will watch this, feel something shift, and then go back to exactly what they were doing before. The notifications, the noise, the to-do list that never ends. And that's okay. That's human. But if you're the kind of person who wants to go deeper, who senses that there's something here worth actually living, not just thinking about, then stay close. There's more coming, and it gets deeper. Leave a comment below with just one word, the one word that stayed with you from this video. Don't overthink it. The first word that comes is the right one. And if someone else's word surprises you, reply to them. That's how strangers become something more. If this found you at the right moment, share it with one person. Just one. You probably already know who. Subscribe if you want to keep going. And if you don't, that's fine too. The Tao doesn't chase. Neither do we. See you on the other side.